Hi guys, it's Pippa. Welcome back to Mysteries with Pippa. If you are new to my channel, I do all cases unsolved. If you are just coming back, welcome back. It's good to have some of you keep returning. It's very nice. So before I begin, I'd just like to say, if you haven't already, please do follow me on Instagram. It's where all the hot things happen surrounding me, even though I'm not very hot, but as hot as it can get. So don't forget to follow me with Mysteries with Pippa. So I have changed the background a little bit. I think it looks a little bit better. Today I'm going to be doing the case of the death of Joshua Maddux. Joshua Maddux was born on the 9th of March 1990 in Colorado Springs, and he'd lived there his whole life. He lived with both his mother and his father, his two sisters and his brother. His sisters were called Ruth and Kate, and his brother was called Zach. After a period of being homeschooled, he then attended Woodland Park High School. He was described as the perfect person. He was super lovely, super funny, and really quirky. He arrived to school one day with a bathrobe on, and he also used to frequently bring a briefcase rather than a backpack. He was also seen as the class clown, but he attained very high grades, and all around he was very much loved by everyone, which is very, very rare. Another thing about him is that he was also very musically inclined and gifted, and he played the guitar extremely well. A little bit of background about Joshua. He had lived in Colorado Springs his whole life, like I said, and because of this he wanted to travel and explore and move and leave and just go away from Colorado Springs, and he had this huge dream that he was going to go on an adventure. But leading up to that dream, he would often go on hikes and walks and spend kind of overnight on these hikes and walks. Him and grass and nature and just spend time on his own, and this wasn't uncommon for him to do so. In 2006, when Zach was only 18, he had took his own life, and this traumatized Josh. They were extremely close and he never saw it coming. And it was because of this he developed this kind of need to get away from Colorado. So even though it had affected him, his parents were worried, his siblings were worried, and also his teachers were worried as well because of how close him and Zach were. He dealt with it pretty well, all things considering, and this is where this idea to kind of move and leave and travel had stemmed from. 2 years after Zach had died, this is where shit hit the fan. On the 8th of May 2008, Joshua had left his home to go on a walk and disappeared, and he has never been seen since. Josh's family, especially his father, wasn't initially worried on the first day because he had said he was going on a walk, and like I said before, it wasn't uncommon for him to go out on these hikes and not return back for a day or two. But when they had heard nothing on the 5th day, his family got extremely worried, and so they contacted the police to report him missing. And as usual in these cases, nothing happened. The police couldn't do anything because he was 18 years of age, so he was classed as an adult, and there was nothing suspicious surrounding his disappearance, and they just assumed that he had gone on his travels like he said he was going to do, but just didn't tell anyone or take anything with him. Because the police did nothing, it was ultimately up to the family to do something, and so they searched for him for many years, put up lots of flyers. They tried to raise as much awareness as possible regarding the disappearance of Josh, but to no avail. The disappearance of Josh got to Josh's mum and dad quite horrifically, to the point where they ended up getting a divorce. But Josh's dad remained in the family home because he thought if Josh ever returned, he would at least know where to go, back to the family home. And it is so heartbreaking and sad because the family of Josh had literally convinced themselves that he had just gone away on his adventures, that he was a free spirit, that he'd been talking about it for so long, that this is it, he's done it, and that one day he will come back and that they will be there for him when he does. The family had convinced themselves of this. And in August 2015, about a mile away from Josh's home, an owner of an old abandoned log cabin decided that he was going to knock down the log cabin. He owned the land that was that the cabin was on, and he was going to build about 32 houses on it to make extra money. When they decided to knock the chimney down, they discovered the remains of a human body stuffed in the chimney. It was discovered to be Joshua's body, and they found this through dental records. His body was found in a very odd V shape inside the chimney, and his knees met his head in it. Another thing which was really obscure about the body of Josh is that he only wore a thermal t-shirt. From the waist down, he was completely naked. The owner did say that he had smelled a really weird odour for the last couple of years that he kept checking up on the cabin, but he just put it down to dead rodents. So now let's get into the theories about the death of Joshua Maddux. The first theory, which was also written on the autopsy, is that he died by an accidental death. And the coroner did assume that Joshua had tried to climb in to the chimney and accidentally fell in, got stuck and died. Inside the cabin there was also a furniture that was pushed up against the fireplace, which would also stop Josh being able to climb out. But there are some dodgy points to this case. The first being, the owner said he had never pushed any type of furniture up against the opening of the fireplace. He had no reason to do so, and so he does believe that there is some foul play there because he never did that. And another reason is, he said he never did it. He had no reason to do this because he had installed a metal mesh bar to go on top of the chimney. And this was to stop vandals trying to get inside the cabin, and also to stop birds or kind of insects, rodents getting in as well. So it was literally impossible for Josh to go in that way. Yet the coroners do believe this happened, as there is no evidence of a metal mesh kind of grill or grid on top of the chimney. But the owner is adamant that he had one fitted there, but that when they were knocking down the cabin, it had been taken away for scrap. But because there is no evidence of it there, the coroner can say that this is how he died. Another issue is the state in which Josh was found. He was found naked from the waist down, which is very odd. When he disappeared in his home, it was on a very cold day. He also had a thermal vest on to show that it was cold. So why would he take all his clothes off and jump down into the chimney? It makes no sense. And can you guess where they found the rest of his clothes, his underpants and his trousers and his socks? They found them in the cabin. So he must have got inside the cabin, so there was no need for him to go into the chimney. His clothes were found in the cabin, yet his dead body was found in the chimney. If that doesn't scream some kind of circumstantial foul play, I don't know what does. There's also another theory that I would just like to read to you. It is on a Reddit comment, and I am going to get that for you now. So someone posted a comment in relation to the death of Joshua Maddux on Reddit. I'm going to read out now what he wrote. So he put, it's quite long, so bear with me. I went to high school with this skinny, dorky, hippie kid named Andy who played the guitar in a band. I was never good friends with him or anything, but a year or so after I graduated, one of my good friends, Josh, started hanging out with him and then went missing. Last I heard, Andy was telling another friend, yeah, me and Josh have been spending a lot of time together. We're planning a trip to New Mexico. Turns out, in addition to becoming a lot scarier looking, Andy had indeed heading down to New Mexico, where he found himself shooting up shit with a caretaker of a disabled guy. And he got invited to their apartment. The caretaker went in the shower, and when he comes back out, the disabled guy is stabbed to death and Andy has gone. So Andy, who was best friends with Josh, is gone. This is all after Josh went missing. When Andy gets arrested, he also claims to have killed a woman in Taos and stuffed her body in a barrel. The cops have indeed found a woman stuffed in a barrel in Taos, but they already have someone in custody for that, and they decided to stick with that guy instead. Years later, I found out the caretaker had died in a bar fight, and without him, the cops didn't have much of a way of evidence. as they believed Andy had done that. Several of us went to the cops and said, yo, Josh, who went missing, was last seen with Andy, who is a murderer. Maybe you should check that out. Despite a fair amount of pestering, nothing ever really came from it, and by nothing, I mean the police mostly didn't even return our calls, and once accidentally cancelled the bulletin on Josh because he's alive and living in the next town over. Even though he wasn't, we now know he was dead. He was actually in the chimney of an abandoned cabin like 2 blocks from his parents' house. The coroner said that the body had been in there for about 7 years and ruled the death accidental, concluding that Josh had probably climbed down the chimney in an attempt to break into the house and got stuck, which, given the age of the corpse, doesn't seem overly ridiculous. Except to the fact that in addition to Josh having been last seen with Andy immediately before his stabbing spree, people called in to report having heard rumours that Andy was bragging to having put Josh in a hole. And the fact that the owner of the cabin says it would have been impossible to access the chimney from above because he installed a heavy steel grate under the top layer of the bricks to keep the raccoons out and whatnot. Or the fact that somebody had ripped a heavy bar off the wall in the kitchen and propped it against the fireplace. So I read it as a furniture. This guy says that it was a pole that was put up against the fireplace. This is just my opinion, but I don't care who you are. You don't try to climb head first into a chimney via a hole rusted with a metal grate with your dick hanging out, and that is 100% true. But the most ridiculous part for me is the quote from the coroner. This is what the coroner put in the report. I know it's not a natural death and I'm confident it's not suicide. My other options are accidental death, homicide, or undetermined. This guy put a comment on Reddit which follows my theories that I had said to you guys before I read it out about why would he have gone in half naked in a chimney. And that is also the other theory to do with this Andy guy who can't be arrested because they don't have enough evidence on him. So guys, that is the end of today's case. I do believe that Joshua Maddux was killed. Please, if you did like this case, thumbs up. If you loved the case, maybe you'll subscribe, who knows. And this is one case down for the week. Do let me know what your suggestions are. I have many suggestions of all of you guys, and I promise to keep you updated as I go along. Now, from Mysteries with Pippa, I hope you enjoy your weekend. I hope you enjoyed this case. Please put your theories down below.